Hey, what's going on everybody? This is G The Hypersapien, and in this video we're going to continue to explore the Ork Miniature Range. So we've taken a look at the killer cans, now let's take a look at the Orks Deff Dread. So a similar design to the killer cans. If you haven't seen that video, go ahead and watch it if you're interested. But it's the old school orc design. It's quite old, it's got the yellow background and this apocalyptic sort of environment. On the side you get this radar looking design just with the same sort of text and images. We'll flip it to the back, contains one model. Models require assembly and painting. Citadel paints and Citadel plastic glue. Paints and glue are not included. Contents may vary from those shown. You get these four rectangles. It's kind of zoomed in on the weapons here. Like the killer cans, you get the goth colour scheme at the front, and then you get the Evil Sunz colour scheme at the back. I like the Evil Sunz one though, it's quite nice, it shows quite a lot of battle damage on that. Some oxidization and that sort of stuff. You get your Citadel suggested paint schemes, some Mephiston, Abaddon, Lead Belcher, Brass Scorpion, Fire Dragon, the Crag and Avalanche Sunset. But like always, let's bust this open. So you get your sprues, you get your build guide, and then you get obviously one base for the one miniature. We'll put this aside though. So we'll take a look at the build guide. You got Orks Deff Dread, choose your variant. So you get a couple of different options. For more advanced people you could even mix it up even more. But for beginners, choose your variant. Explanation of symbols here. So if you see a symbol and you forget what it means, come back to the beginning of the guide and it will show. But special instructions, dry fit, alternative view, stage complete, choice of parts, repeat process ×2, paint before assembly and do not glue. First, it just says before assembling your model kit, please read through the instruction booklet carefully. A pair of plastic cutters is required to remove the plastic components in this kit from their frame. To assemble your model, you will need plastic glue. Games Workshop sells Citadel plastic cutters and Citadel plastic glue, but does not recommend these products to use by children under the age of 16 without adult supervision. Goes to Citadel tools, but obviously other companies have hobby tools as well. That's just up to you, that's your preference really. Step 1, and it says follow step 1 to 8 for all variants. So this is similar to our cans. If you've seen this review, you basically put in the two sides together and the front and the bottom. But the Deff Dread has this weird curved design here. So these pieces are going to go onto obviously the sides here and then the front here. But yeah, make sure you look at your sprue, you cut the parts off and try to follow this as best as you can. And then this is the complete image. So now we've got our right leg and our left leg. These are quite simple, you just put this piece on the side here, as you can see, for the right leg. And then the foot, you have basically put the toes on in a way, and they give you options here. You have this more steel cap, or these claw like a raptor sort of foot would be. And then you get your two completed, so that's the different variants. And then the same with the other side for the left leg. Which now we're up to step 4, which is the legs. It's basically just putting the legs on to the body. Step 5, we have engine and shoulder pads. So the engines are basically what the exhaust goes into. So you can see these two parts go together here. The same with this side. And then you get two exhausts that go into here. Now this is a little bit fiddly, this part. You get these little nubby parts that go into this part here. You just basically have to hold it for a little bit because this is quite weighty, so you just hold it as it's gluing. Just a little tip, because I remember them being a little bit fiddly, those parts. We built all these parts, you can see it's going into the back here. Now this is the flipped around view, it doesn't show you that well, it could have been a better image. But these basically go into the back here. And then you get the shoulder pads. Now these are quite weird because this almost looks like a bit of sprue, this part that comes down here, this bit of structure here. It's basically sort of a post in a way. But yeah, that goes into the arm here. It's sort of, as you can see in this image, people have got confused about this before because this circular part you'd think almost fits into this arm here, but it actually stands upright, and you can see that the shoulder pad is elevated from the model. Step 6 is the heads, so it says choose option A and B only. It's got all these different numbers to build up here, but it's quite simple. So the tusks go onto this flat part. You can see these two circular parts on the jaw piece that are flat. So your teeth go into that. You get a couple of little bits there on the front. You can see what it looks like when it's finished. And then you've got the face plate, which looks like a skull, and then that goes into here. So at the back it will have a part that fits into place here on the face. And then you get your other variant. So you put these eyepieces on. The jaw here, it's a nice big jaw. It's a little bit fiddly here because you have to put these sides on here onto the jaw, the parts that attach. Steps 7 and 8 are the right upper arm and left upper arm. So you basically see it's similar to the killer cans. It's a ball joint. You just have to build the arm. So you've got your basic structure, and then you've got these two parts that connect, and that makes the ball joint, and that makes the hole for the ball joint to go into, and that's completed. See the shoulder pad as well slides in on top of this. And then it's quite similar the other side. You've got your shoulder pad, you've got your basic design, you've got your shoulder pad, you've got the front piece that goes onto the weapon. You've got this little part that goes on here, don't forget that, because that creates the hole for the ball joint. And then you put the tip of the weapon on. Step 9, variant A assembly. The arms are even more easy on this one. It's like a killer can. You get just two pieces that come together. That creates the arm. And then you put the saw on. Similar on the other side, it's just a more chunky arm, but quite easily you put it together again, and then you get the head of the weapon on the ball joint that goes on. The Deff Dread build shows putting on a boss pole, and then it just shows you all the different arms coming together, well, the new arms that we've just looked at. You can see here it says accessories can be placed on each model as desired, so you get all these little glyphs and different decoration, so it kind of leaves it up to you in a way. And then step 10, variant B assembly. So the last one was very choppy and close combat. This is shooty and long range more so. As you can see, all these different shooters and rocket launchers. And these weapons don't really have arms of such. You can just see these parts here, like 66 and 67. It's a ball joint, and then the weapon, you choose your weapon and it comes up onto here, and the ball joint goes into the hole here. So it's quite simple how this is put together. Back it's just got those big arms, and then you've got your guns at the bottom, and then it just says again about the accessories can be placed basically how you desire. So now we've looked at the build guide, let's have a look at the Deff Dread, where your little green skin git goes inside. You've got your shoulder pads, which have various amounts of damage on it. You've got this damage that looks like it's from a blade of some kind. You've got some holes from bullets and whatnot. Just like the killer cans though, really nice design, not too busy with the details, just enough though to make it nice. Now you can see the mould lines on this. You'll need a mould line scraping tool or just easier hobby knife. Go across this mould line if the camera picks it up. It's basically where the two pieces meet. These have got quite vicious mould lines on it. Nothing too bad though. It's on most of the pieces, but it's not hard to clean up. As mentioned, you'll just need a hobby knife, and you go, once you cut the piece out, you just go around the whole piece and clean it up. Just older kits seem to have a lot of mould lines, the way they're designed and the way they were built. To look at this nice skull design here, this is really cool. This is really orky and a nice design. That's the other eyepiece or facial part. It's got these little sort of rectangle pieces that goes into here from memory, so it slides in. Anyway, once you build it and you see the build guide, you'll know what I mean. It goes together quite easy. All these different sprues, but it's mainly for all the different weapon options and whatnot. It's quite an easy kit to build. It's quite beginner friendly, these walkers, these killer cans and death dreads. It's got quite nice detail though here. It's basically a big cable that's been broken and split, and you can see the exposed wires or cables coming out of it. It's really nice. But this is beginner friendly, but it's also a nice kit for people that like to kit bash and convert. It's a lot of options. As I said on the killer can video, the ball joints make it quite nice. It gives you a lot of posability with these. Before you glue it in place, it gives you enough time to have some posability and pose it how you want with these ball joints. It's quite flexible. But yeah, you can see the limbs and the weapons here. You can see the glyph there that we'll flip over and have a look in a sec. This is where the guns go on. You've got your ball joints on the end. You've got these exhausts. You can see the glyph here, the boss pole. They're the shoulder pads, the parts that are actually glued to the shoulder part itself. Now we'll take a look at this sprue. I really like these shoulder pads. Like, these are actually really sharp, where you could actually cut your own self. But yeah, really cool design. I like how vicious they look. This jaw piece is really nice. This comes in handy for sure, you know, if you don't use it. It has quite a lot of uses, at least come to mind for me, that I could use it. You know, you could even, if you could find a big enough orc, you can have that as his jaw piece. But speaking of jaw pieces, that's the part where these tusks go onto, so you glue them to the flat parts. These are some of those accessories, they say, that you can sort of decorate how you wish. Obviously you've got different weapon options here. I like how this has a fuel canister on it. The rockets are always quite humorous and cartoon. Reminds me of Road Runner or something like that. Nice orc saws, these would do some damage for sure. Nice amount of detail though. You can see this one has got this one wire broken. Quite sci-fi, it's quite robotic, which is really cool. It's got all these wires and these little energy symbols and whatnot. This is one of the foot options, those steel capped. We have the last sprue, so we have the two sides of the Deff Dread here. You can see these holes for the ball joints to go into. You can see these Velociraptor type claws. There's one over here, but you can see them, they go onto the foot. Different option from that steel capped look. They have holes and they just slide into these little pegs here. You have to be careful, as mentioned though, the mold lines are real on this model, like even on these claws. You have to go, so once you clip that out, you have to go around with a knife or whatever. So yeah, if you're young, you'll need some adult supervision, or just take your time. Again, we get some different weapon options. I like the details, like the little energy box and whatnot on the rockets. You get some exhaust here. Just this one is gaffer taped or just strapped up. Nice detail here. And then yeah, these are obviously the legs that go on here. This is the part where those engines that I mentioned on the build guide go. That was quite hard to see. It's not that difficult. Once you see the model, you can see that they fit into here, both sides. And that's where the exhausts go into. Now the exhaust, this is the part that I said was a little bit fiddly. You can see how small this, I guess it's a peg in a way, we could call it. Need to hold it in place. And yeah, that's where it slides into, these parts. Just a little bit fiddly, that part, so I thought I'd point it out. You get a few different orky glyphs here that you can put around and decorate your Deff Dread. But again, it has enough flat area if you wanted to paint a design or whatever. So now we've looked at all the sprues. So that's the Deff Dread. Again, just like the killer cans, this is a really nice design. It could be used with older editions, or it could be used with current editions, which obviously it is. You don't have an orc or a grot or anything, it's just a vehicle. It can go through the editions and it doesn't age badly in a way. It's got enough detail on it for it still to be nice. You've got enough, it's not too busy like some of the newer stuff. But it's got enough detail for it to be nice with all these wires and rivets and bits and pieces. Get a lot of options. If you build it one way, you'll have lots of leftovers. So you're obviously just going to use a few arms and you're not going to use all the head options. I mean, maybe you will. Maybe you'll go crazy and somehow put all the pieces on. I'd be amazed or impressed to see that. But my point is, it gives you lots of extras. So if you use 1 foot option with the toes and you use various weapon options and the face options, you'll have lots of leftovers. And a lot of orc people, we love our leftovers. Plenty of leftovers to go into your bits box, which is really nice. So I always love to see that it has lots of bits. Some of these new kits, they just give you enough to build it. You don't get leftovers really. So it's always nice to have these leftovers. Even the newer kits, new buggies or whatnot, you could put some of these bits on there to make it your own. Put some of these claws and spikes and whatnot on it. But that's my Orks Deff Dread review. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, if you could please leave me a like, I'd really appreciate that. If you haven't, please consider subscribing and hit the notification bell so you'll never miss an orc review. But as always, this was G The Hypersapien, and I appreciate you watching, and I'll catch you next time. Cheers.